So I'll just like finish with what I was going to say actually. So your conditional sentence is really, if something lacks sentience, then I, Forks the person, I'm always going to secure the protection of something with sentience. And so you believe that this is something which is a universalizable rule or moralistic principle under your view?
Yeah, I would say it's a moralistic principle under my view.
So let's say, for example, you have like something which lacks sentience, and you secure the protection of something with sentience, somehow leads to mass genocide, and you securing the protection of that thing which lacks sentience does not lead to something which results in mass genocide. Would it be the case that you would still secure the protection of things with sentience?
No, because that mass genocide, in effect, I would understand it to be at least, is going to be the mass harm of things with sentience. So I'm going to make that calculation, right? That's still abiding by
so we're talking about these two things in the vacuum. So we have two objects, something which lacks sentience, and something else which does have sentience. Okay, it has or possesses the property of consciousness. I'm saying that, let's say you're in a dilemma, you have to pick one of these things to actually secure the protection of, right? And you pick the protection of the one with sentience. If that results in genocide, you would actually say that no, you not actually do this anymore. But if you secure the protection of the thing which lacks sentience, which results in the absence of genocide, then you pick that over the other. So clearly, it is not really the case that you would do this in every single possible circumstance, but in the circumstances where it does not lead to some sort of like negative net utility, correct?
No, Cap, what I'm saying is that, no, I think it's a bit of a silly dilemma. I'll explain why. It's because, like I said, I'm securing the protections of those with sentience, of the masses, when I'm preventing genocide. And to kind of outline how this is a silly dilemma, I would compare it to another analogy. Let's say that I have to pick between shooting a person and shooting through a door, okay? Obviously, a door is non-sentient, but if I have to choose between that and the door, knowing that behind the door, there are hundreds of people, and me firing through the door could kill more of them than if I just kill the one person. Look, it's unfortunate, but I'm going to have to shoot the one person. Now, I don't think that's contradicted or rendered absurd just because the door itself is non-sentient. It's because I'm factoring things in that are sentient, that are a result of what I'm doing to a non-sentient thing. I don't think it's...
Yeah, I don't think you understand it, because in this example, in the conversation we're having right here, we're just comparing like the fetus with the mother, right? So whatever external factors or consequences comes from the abortion, that the lack of abortion is relevant, or not really relevant, but that's something which we consider afterwards. So you're basically saying here that you would value the protection of the mother over the fetus because the fetus lacks sentience. And so if that is the case, then presumably, if you're going to say this will always be the case, right? You always believe such. Then even under cases where protecting the mother over the fetus would result. Oh, wait, hold on. Even under the circumstances, I was not finished. I told you I'm not going to use any rhetoric.
Yeah,
so I expect that we should have a civil conversation, a good faith conversation without any interruptions.
I just think there needs to be an addendum because I think there's a lack of clarity on my part. I'll say it's my bad. I'll take full.
Wait. You can clarify afterwards. I'm just going to clarify what I'm saying or what I think you're saying, and then you can clarify whatever misconceptions.
I think what I'm clarifying will help you respond, actually. I think it'll help you.
You might help me respond in the future, but let me just finish with my point. So I was just going to say that, just to wrap up my points here, I was just saying that we're comparing the protection of the mother over the protection of the fetus and vice versa. We're just basically saying which one is worth protecting more. And you're saying under all circumstances, if something has sentience, you secure the protection of that thing over something without sentience, and that would cross over to this abortion case scenario, where you should secure the protection of the mother over the fetus. And I'm saying that if we have certain external consequences from securing the protection of the mother over the fetus, which is that it leads to something like some really ridiculous negative net utility in society, would you still do the same thing? If you say no, then it's not actually the case that in all cases you'd actually value one object with sentience over another object without sentience, simply in virtue of the fact that one lacks sentience. There are actually some possible cases where it's actually...
I do value it. I do value it. To be clear, your analogy didn't actually present a contradiction to my... Essentially, do you value one sentient sentient being, or do you more so value the millions of sentient beings that will be affected by your actions upon a non-sentient thing, right? Which is why I brought up the door analogy. Technically, when I shoot through a door, okay, I'm not really doing anything wrong when I shoot through that door if it's just the door alone. But if there's hundreds of people behind it, then of course I'm not going to shoot through the door. Of course that's wrong. Even though the door
I've got the analogy.
So that's all to say.
Are you making the claim?
So that's all to say. I do value the one person that I would have to shoot, but that's not a contradiction. That doesn't demonstrate I don't value that individual. It actually proves my point more so that I truly do value sentient life, and that's why I want to protect hundreds, thousands, millions of them, even if it's at the unfortunate expense of one. Yes.
Are you saying that you secure the protection of the mother over the fetus in all cases?
The mother over the fetus in all cases? If it's non-sentient, I don't see why not.
So you're saying that you secure the protection of the mother over the fetus in all cases? Wait, hold on. So in all cases, you would secure the protection of the mother over the fetus, correct? In all cases.
If it doesn't lead to the detriment of like mass sentient beings who I value, then sure, yeah.
Okay, so now it is not the case. Wait, so to be clear on this, wait. So usually, hold on. So usually when we're having like these pro-choice conversations, in most cases, at the very least, the person who is defending pro-choice is going to want to say something like, chosen or the mother's choice overrules the fetus's bodily autonomy, or whatever they want to say there. And so what they're basically trying to argue there is that irrespective of the circumstances, once the mother chooses that, hey, I don't want to have this baby, this is against my will, I don't want to go through all of the stress, this physical stress, this emotional stress that comes with pregnancy, I don't want to go through all of this, so I'm just going to abort the child. They're going to say that that's going to be morally justified, but that's what they believe. They believe the choice to terminate the fetus is a sufficient condition for that action to be morally justified. So if you agree that there are multiple possible cases where this choice is not actually the type of thing which warrants the moralistic nature of the action, then it is not the case. It would be a sufficient condition, which is what most pro-choice proponents would be primarily claiming in these types of conversations.
But you understand that what I'm claiming is that, look, when we're arguing for pro-choice, we're essentially arguing for some form of women's access to healthcare. Women's access to healthcare where a doctor is performing a procedure, a medical procedure on the woman to abort the child. Look, if the child's non-sentient, there are no other sentient agents that are being harmed, right, by this medical procedure, and it's to secure the protections and will of the mother who is sentient. Yeah, I'm going to defend that every single time. Now, if you want to get some crazy externality like, well, what if the mother chooses to abort the child by fucking killing herself and setting off a bomb in Times Square that kills millions of people in the process? Like, you know, I guess so. But at that point, like, obviously that just reaffirms.
I agree the externalities are very crazy. I agree they're very crazy. They're very unrealistic. They're very ridiculous.
Wait, to be clear, I'm not just calling it crazy. I'm not just calling it crazy. Wait, I'm not just calling it crazy. I'm saying it doesn't even contradict my position, because the reason I'm against that reaffirms the reason I'm in favor of abortions for the mother, protecting sentient life.
It contradicts your position under the condition you've laid out prior, which is that in all cases, under this one thing you've laid out, it will be the case that it will be morally justified. If you're actually going to clarify right now and say, well, this is not actually what I meant, that's completely fine. I'll actually adapt to the clarification. No more pun right there. I'll actually adapt to the clarification, right? And then I'll actually say, okay, well, you'd actually say that if it leads to these external crazy consequences, then you'd actually deem the action as moral. That's completely fine, okay? But under the prior conditioning laid out, under the prior stipulation,
do you understand why?
Okay,
you understand why?
I know you're not really interrupting, but you're still interrupting against my will, right? So you're gonna have to respect my bodily and speech autonomy right now. So, I'm overriding. Yeah, but I don't think that's a moralistic action. Just like how I believe abortion is moralistic or is a moralistic justified.
Do you understand the why? Do you understand the why as to why I'm opposed? Not just because they're crazy, not just because they're insane hypotheticals. Do you understand the why?
Yeah, you're saying that it does not contradict your position. That's the reason.
And why specifically? But why specifically?
Because the entailments of the thing that I'm basically implementing here does not lead to a P and not P, which would be entailed from your position.
Sure. So can you outline the contradiction very specifically in protecting the masses of sentient life? How does that contradict
your new position? You're not being a contradiction towards your new position, but you're being a contradiction towards the position you've laid out prior.
No, it's not a new position. My position was always...
You said always. You said it would always be the case. No, you said it would always be the case. Hold on, Forks. You said it would always be the case. I don't know, I'm being dishonest. So it'll be always be the
To be
case.
clear, that's not disclusionary. I can value the one person. I can value the one person.
I really appreciate if you stop using rhetoric, okay? I don't want to use rhetoric,
I'm not using rhetoric. I'm using substance. I'm trying to use what you appeal to the most.
Okay,
apparently.
cool.
Okay. So look,
okay, cool.
it's
I'm not
to say I don't value. It's not to look. I'm trying to give you a substantive exchange. It's not that I don't value the.
You're trying to, but I can appreciate the efforts, but the successor does not look into
I think I'm being pretty
so look,
it's not that I don't value the one person. It's that I do value the one person. I value more sentient.
Okay, so it is not the case that it is always the case, correct?
No, it's always the case I value them. It's just not always the case that they outweigh the value of mass.
We're not talking about moral value. You think that's what you think in pro-life, pro-choice conversations, the pro-life proponents is disagreeing that we ought to morally value the mother's choice? That's not what we're talking about there. We're not talking about moral value. And I know you're going to interrupt. I knew you were going to interrupt. I knew you were going to interrupt. I knew it. So don't interrupt. Just calm down, right? I'm not. Okay. We're not talking about whether or not. We're not talking about whether or not. We're not talking about whether or not. You always morally value the mother's choice. What we're talking about here is whether you always believe that the mother's choice would override the fetus's autonomy. That is what you claim prior. That was what you asseverated prior in this conversation. And now you're backtracking on this. Now you're actually retracting this. Now you're actually agreeing that there's certain conditions, and another interruption as he gets increasingly insecure in the conversation. And now you're actually agreeing that there are conditions, even though they're crazy, there are conditions where you not agree with us. You can speak now.
No, so to be clear, what I said and what I was originally defending is that I'm always going to defend the sentience and the choice of the mother over the sentience or choice of the unborn child, right? Or rather the lack thereof when it comes to the sentience of the unborn child. So to be clear, when you start spamming these analogies, and I know like you're trying to do like a reductio ad absurdum, I don't think it's particularly working, but when you try to do them where it's like, okay, well, what if you had to do like a calculus where a genocide would happen if you were to do harm upon a non-sentient object? Now are you valuing a non-sentient object over the sentient object when you're trying to prevent genocide? And the answer is no. What I'm really valuing is the millions or billions of sentient subjects that would be harmed if I were to do some sort of violence upon the non-sentient object. That's why I brought up the analogy. Look, it's not that I value a door as to the reason why I'm not shooting through it. The reason I don't shoot through the door is because I don't want to kill people on the other side. That's not the door.
You've repeated the same analogy. I have tracked what you've been saying, but
when you say it that there's a contradiction, I'm sure you're aware. You're saying that there's P and not P located within my position. That's not true. What I'm saying, and all
I just told you what I meant by this. I literally told you, I clarified this. I told you that the first thing you said verbatim. I said the first thing you said verbatim. Hold on. You're not finished.
I'm like, give me like 10 more seconds. My fault. I'm not trying to ramble. Yeah, all I'm saying is that there's no contradiction in valuing sentient life and measuring sentient life against itself. Okay, of course we're going to save 100 people over 10 people. That doesn't mean we don't value the 10 people. That doesn't mean we wouldn't secure the protections of the 10 people against, if they had to have an abortion against a non-sentient.
10 seconds passed, by the way.
Yeah. You're right. You get the point.
Yeah. So again, I'm not saying that specifically is what entails the contradiction. What I'm talking about there is the claim you've made regarding the idea that it is always the case that you would take or you would secure the protection of a sentient being over a non-sentient being in a vacuum, whereas you have two beings or two objects, one is a non-sentient object and the other being a sentient being. That is what I'm talking about there. And you said that's always the case. But then you agreed that yes, there are actually some possible and multiple possible circumstances, no matter how ridiculous they are, no matter how unrealistic and crazy they are and insane they are, there are circumstances whereas you would actually do the opposite to what you claim. And that's fine. I'm not saying that you wait, hold on, before you respond. I'm not trying to get a concession here, okay? I'm just trying to help you out in your position. You can tweak it. I'm not going to say you can see this debate. I'm going to adapt to your new position, your new refined position. Of course, my help and my reductio, and then I will just attack that, okay? So are we willing to do this?
How generous. No, I didn't concede to what you said I conceded to, right? I didn't say that there were opportunities or there are hypotheticals in which I would secure the protections of a non-sentient thing over a sentient thing. I literally just outlined how those non-sentient things do not have value. Their value and protections are not what we're securing. We're securing people behind the door. We're securing people behind the door, not the protections for the door itself. You need to engage with that.
So you're making the claim that non-sentient beings like fetus, they do not have value, do not have moral value.
Yeah, no, I don't think they do. At least not over the mother.
Okay, so hold on. So what do you think moral value is?
Actually, wait, real quick. I'm thinking about what I just said in response to you. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the later part of my answer. At least not over the mother. I'll stick with that. So
wait, hold on. Sorry. I didn't. Firstly,
I think moral
one thing.
value. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So,
no,
continue, man.
All right, that was awkward. Yeah, I think moral value is, look, we're going to assign some sort of protections or considerations. We're not going to do harm upon things which have characteristics that we care about. I think that's what it is.
Assign protections to things which has characteristics we care about.
Like
and the reason why I'm typing this out is because I know for a fact that when I type this out, you can't say did not say this. Okay, so
no, I haven't.
To be clear on this, yeah. So just to clarify, who is the we here? When you say we, who are you talking about? Who's we here?
Yeah, it's going to refer to who's doing the moral evaluation.
So anyone who's doing moral evaluation? So I'm doing moral evaluation here, and that is a protection to fetus. So that means fetus has moral value. So your claim is false.
Well, no, we would have to argue about whether or not they have moral value. Okay, they can have moral value to you.
No. You said, hold on, wait, sorry. So look. It does have your claim is false. You said moral value, right? Is
moral value.
Moral value. Wait, could I just finish, please? And then I'll give her the whole floor to respond without interrupting. Okay?
Oh, I appreciate.
I asked you. You said that fetus do not have moral value. I said, oh, really? What does moral value mean? And then you said verbatim that moral value is the type of thing which involves assigning protection, or us assigning protection. We assigning protection to things which has characteristics we care about. Now I ask you, who is the we here? You said the ones doing moral evaluation. So that means fetus do in fact have moral value because there are a lot of people who evaluates the moral status of fetus who assigns protection to fetus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be clear, so a fetus can have moral value to you, even within the definition that you typed out and outlined, which feel free to send it in the chat, by the way. I made it very clear at multiple junctures that it was a subjective analysis. Like, they can have moral value subjectively to you, but obviously the point of a morality discussion or an abortion debate is to determine who has the most compelling, who has the most, I guess, clean, most consistent type of morality when it comes to what they're evaluating, and that the audience and judges can walk away kind of, having maybe a new opinion on what they want to go with in life when it comes to their morality. So to be clear, you can say trivially that, my definition allows for you to subjectively say they have moral value, but obviously the purpose of the debate is to determine which subjective moral framework is the best one, I think, right?
I think that's not necessarily the purpose, really. I'll get onto the real purpose later on. I'm not going to go into that right now. But as I've said, it's like a simple modus ponens, right? You believe that if something has the type of thing which has moral value evaluation, which counts in favor of the protection of that thing, then it has moral value. That's a true conditional sentence, given the semantics of given the truth. It doesn't have to be subjective or objective. I don't know what it means for something to be. Firstly, I don't know what it means for something to be true, but not in an objective manner. I believe all facts are objectively true. Secondly, it doesn't matter if you're like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I say I'm feeling pain, for example. Pain is a subjective feeling, but that's still an objective fact. So you can have objective facts about subjective things. That's fine. That's irrelevant to the point. The point I'm making here is that you believe that if something has the type of moral evaluation which counts in favor of that given thing and the protection and the rights of that thing, then it has moral value. And so it would be something which follows from this conditional sentence that fetus has moral value because there is moral evaluation which counts in favor of the protection of said object. And so the person who did that was not funny. I'm pretty sure your parents are dead. You're an orphan. And to continue my point, really, and to continue my point, your initial claim would be false. Given your own analysis, there's a contradiction.
Okay, so I could actually answer to you what I mean. When I say that something is not true objectively, but that it's true subjectively, I'm saying that the truth maker for that claim is going to be indexed to something mind dependent, so some sort of sensation or some sort of emotive reaction that you have.
What kind of truth makers are going under?
As opposed to something being made true by something that is stance or mind independent, which is typically what we mean by objective.
What claims? Wait, hold on. Sorry, you say the truth maker of claims are mind dependent. What truth theory going on there?
So like I have a stance on
I don't think there are any truth makers which are mind dependent, by the way.
Yeah, there are. If your mind has the proclivity to enjoy spicy food and you eat spicy food, then it's going to be a stance independent thing on your part that, that's tasty.
Yeah, of course, it's a stance independent fact. Yeah, the fact itself is objective.
Oh, look, I don't mind the interruptions, but it's going to go two ways. We do it, which, I've interrupted a few times, so I'm not doing that to air you out. But to be clear, look, if you have the opposite proclivity, then you're not going to like spicy food. So like really simply put, that's what it is. And also you trivially
doesn't mean that it is subjectively.
No, I'm gonna address the second thing you said. You trivially pointing out that you subjectively hold them to be valuable. It's not really going to prove anything, because if we also define the lack of moral value as the lack of moral evaluators giving you moral consideration, then we would also, by the same logic of your argument, say that they don't have moral value, because there are people who evaluate them as not having moral value. So to be clear, we do have to argue, we do have to present compelling arguments for our sides. We can't just say, oh, well, you agreed that subjectively somebody could evaluate them as having value. The debate's over. Obviously not, Dodd.
Yeah, so to respond to the ridiculous point you made about truth makers, so you say that if I have proclivity to actually if I have the proclivity to like spicy food, then that would mean that the statement I like spicy foods would be true, and if I have an opposing proclivity, then that statement would no longer be true. The thing is, the fact of that matter is not determined by my mind. My mind could have not existed, and it's still the case that the statement is true. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't rely on the object or the predicate, the object is just the mind. What it relies on is the relation between the mind and the predicate. So that means that for any statement which is true, right, it is true given the fact that the subject of said sentence satisfies a given relation with the predicate of that sentence, even if neither the subject nor the predicate exist. So no, my mind does not have to exist for the statement to be true. It can be true in the fictional sense. So it is not the case that the theory of truth makers that you're employing in the conversation is correct. It is inaccurate. So no, the truth makers are relations, right? It's not the objects of the propositions which are employing certain relations. To respond to the other point, you have not actually shown any sort of meaningful objection towards the valid and sound argument I've given on the table as to why you've actually contradicted yourself, given your definition. The conclusion of the argument ends with fee doesn't necessarily have any moral value, and the conclusion you stated previously is that they do not have moral value, which after we have rigorously examined your analysis, which was, I would say, very impoverished, it leads to an opposing conclusion. And so it's either you want to reanalyze what it means for something to have moral value, or you're going to want to concede that you made a false claim. So you're in a double bind right now.
I mean, okay, I wouldn't talk about impoverished considering all the food stamp collections on your fridge.
That feels so
okay, you got me on the stutter. I'm gonna get you on the next one.
Bro, that's crazy. That did not like. Continue, man.
Don't worry about it.
You tried though.
Don't worry about it. I'm gonna get you on the next one. All right, I got you. No, I don't think that I'm glad you laughed. I'm glad you found it funny. I don't think that my analysis of my position, or I guess our analysis, we'll call it our analysis of my position, I don't think it was impoverished. I don't think there was a contradiction presented in it. But, that's water under the bridge. That was like 15 minutes ago in the debate. I'm very curious, though. The first thing that you said, I kind of want to pull that back a little bit. Okay, if your mind doesn't exist, then how would anything ever articulate the proposition that this food is tasty? How would that proposition ever have any truth?
I don't think propositions rely on articulation.
Because to my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong here. But to my understanding, when we say that something is good or something is delicious, that's going to describe some sort of sensation, some sort of experience sensation. Obviously, without a mind, there is no. I guess I'm assuming you would agree with this. Without a mind, there is no experience when you're eating spicy food. So there is no way for you to capture the goodness of how that tastes. Therefore, it's not going to be true, right? That it's going to be tasty. That is going to be a stance dependent. Thing that you would say. So I don't know. I'm curious about that. Could you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I was going to say that I don't think propositions rely on articulation, and there's like an intuitive case for this. Before humans existed, before any living conscious beings existed, it was to be true that the proposition, there are no living beings at that moment in time, is true. And so that's one example of a proposition being true at the moment in time where there are no conscious beings to articulate said proposition. And so I don't think propositions are the types of things which relies on articulation. I think propositions are just things which could be believed in principle.
No, not all of them. I would say that specifically, and this is why I made a point of, specifying this, I would say that particularly propositions which are reliant on or report on some sort of experience are very obviously going to be reliant on somebody existing and having stances.
I'll give an example.
So, like, how do
I'll
you?
give an example. So I'll just say this.
Don't give an example.
Sorry,
Don't give an example. Just directly engage with this. How do you?
I'm just engaging by giving an example.
How do you have the experience? How do you have the experience of spicy food being good if there are no minds, if there are no stances? How does that experience exist?
I'm not saying, well, yeah, you can have it in the fictional sense. So, like, for example, think of like Gojo. When Gojo felt a sense of like confusion when Geto actually popped up in front of him in Shibuya arc, right? So that's like a mental state right there, but Gojo does not actually exist. Gojo's mind doesn't actually exist.
Okay, so
that's a good example. His mind does not exist, but the sentence Gojo felt X feeling, in that case, now it's still a true proposition. So you can have true propositions about mental states.
This is silly though, because that experience was.
It is not silly. Your tracking skills are really bad right there. That's why
that is silly. Like this is a no. Hey,
you just have a silly comprehension ability.
This is a bit of a schizophrenic argument. This is a I didn't take my
argument. I don't even know what schizophrenia means.
This is a
like if I saw that on the internet, I thought it was cool to actually use it in the debate.
You're both trying to be rhetorical.
You can just we can just acknowledge this, right? You would agree that
you got to stop with this calorie deficit rhetorical jab, man. This is like really bad.
I'm calorie deficient. Thanks for calling me skinny.
I'm saying your rhetorical jab says calorie deficit, by the way. Sorry, but just give the response.
Okay, I'll add a little bit more flour to them next time. Okay, look, here's the thing.
Yeah, and add a little more substance, or a lot more substance.
And a little bit more substance. Thank you.
I'm just giving a pro tip as just appeared.
I'm writing this down. Hold on, let me get out my notepad. All right, everybody, bow down.
Yeah, you need a notepad because you can't memorize so much information at one time, by the way.
Trinity bows down, Seth the programmer bows down. We all bow down when we write notes about Apollo's.
For real. Yeah, got you. Yeah.
So very important.
And the sarcasm is not going to match because bad in the rhetoric, by the way.
No, I'm actually genuinely complimenting you. I think you've come a long way with the rhetoric. I actually appreciate it. But here's the thing. I'm sure we can both agree that fictional experience... No, you're welcome. I'm glad seeing my son get raised so properly. But I'm sure we can agree that fictional experience was drafted by somebody who has an experience. That is to say, it's silly because even if you want to come up with these fictional experiences as some sort of addendum, there's still...
Is it logically possible for these fictional experiences to not be drafted by anyone?
Yeah, it's not metaphysically possible. But they're still reliant upon...
Well, is it logically possible?
Is it logically? Why does that matter?
I'm asking you, is it logically possible?
My claim was an index to logical possibility.
I'm not talking about your claim. I'm asking you, is it the case if it's logically possible?
Is it logically possible? Yes. Is it metaphysically possible? No.
Oh, so it doesn't logically require. So to be clear in this,
look, bro, is it too much to ask?
You want to land your point?
Debater, that we can talk about like the real world, the reality of the world. I'm saying in the real world,
talk about the real world of reality by analyzing the
real world, where I'm talking about real women who are having real Medicare procedures for to protect their real rights. Okay, I'm just making the point that in this real world, propositions are some of them are indexed to experiences, and that with the lack of stances and in the lack of minds, those experiential propositions cannot exist. That's just true. You said that they could exist in fictional. I don't
know how that's a strong claim right there, but that's fine.
Those fictional verses were drafted up, therefore caused by, predicated upon real people with real experiences. It's a silly comparison. It doesn't defeat the point.
It's not a silly comparison. As I've said again, when you're saying it's a silly comparison, that's your means of projecting the fact that you're too silly to actually understand the point and object to the point of the matter. And that's fine. I expected nothing more from you, obviously. So again, I'm just going to repeat the objection rather. So I'm going to say that, it's pretty obvious you're confused on like truth theories. That's fine. I never expected some level of intricacy on your end when it comes to like philosophical understanding. So we're going to get on to the more, you could say, pragmatic parts of the conversation, like for example, about the abortion stuff. So let's see. Yeah. So irrespective of what you're saying right now, it would still be the case that you believe that, or rather it follows from all the set of statements you've said that it has more value. And so again, I'm not going to try to force you the concession. I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself, to give a better impression, okay? And that's because I'm a very charitable debater, okay? So this is what I'm going to do. Hold on, let me give you the chance real quickly. I know you're like excited. I know you're like jumping on your feet right now. I know you're excited right now. So the chance is simply you can just give like a reanalysis of what you mean by moral value, and then we can just go over that, type shit. Yeah.
No, I'm going to give the same analysis because I think that the analysis I gave was correct. I think I defended it properly.
So you're just going to squander that opportunity to redeem yourself.
No, I'm not squandering the
Look at
opportunity.
this.
Look, here's the
What are
thing.
you doing, man?
Here's the thing, Apollo. I don't think we're in like deep waters. I don't think we're in the Atlantic Ocean of philosophy debate. We're in the kiddie pool right now. And
Do you want to just give my argument for pro-life?
all due respect, I think that I'm pretty capable of keeping up. We're in the kiddie pool right now. You're the one who's trying to take it.
You're keeping up somewhat. You're doing better than the majority of people, but you're not doing good enough.
I think the reason why you're trying to take it to the deep end is because you know that what we're really talking about is in shallow waters, and in shallow waters, it's clear to everybody. Everybody can see through the bottom floor that your argument really isn't that good. But in deep waters,
I haven't even given an argument for my position yet. That's how I know you're not tracking. That's why there's skin so down. That's how I know you're skin so down.
Maybe it gets more murky in the deep water, so you try to go there. I'm gonna bring you back every time.
You're doing better. You're doing better. You're adapting to the rhetorical pace. That's fine. That's cute. That's actually really. But look, just to continue my point, I'm not even giving. The thing is, I haven't even given an argument. The thing is, I haven't even given an argument. I've been given undercutting defeaters. I don't know what you're talking about here. I haven't given an argument for pro-life. I just told you, Forks. Calm down, relax. Take a deep breath. I just told you, take a deep breath, take your chill pill. I know you're like, I don't know if you need antipsychotics or something, but just calm down. All I'm saying here is simply that I'm willing to give an argument right now for pro-life being true, because this is not going anywhere. Your argument.
No, it's going plenty of places.
I'm going to post my argument. Okay, I'm going to post my arguments right now.
Do you agree that some abortions happen near or around conception? Do you agree that that's also possible?
Of course, I don't care when it happens. I just think in all cases,
so you would hold barely
not
even fetuses, zygotes at that point. You would hold barely conceived zygotes who have no nervous system, who really don't even really have a brain like that. You would hold their moral value, and you would force a woman to go through pregnancy for 9 months against her will because of this little brainless, nervous systemless thing. Really?
Yeah, just like how it's forced rapists to not rape people. Yeah, type shit. So yeah, I'm gonna give my argument.
Do you think that that's the same as raping somebody? Wait.
It's not the same, but I think they both fall under the category of moral action.
How are they analogous? How is it analogous?
I don't think they're analogous in the sense where they have the same level of negative impact. I just think they both fall under the category of immoral actions. I don't know what's ridiculous about this.
You think that aborting something that doesn't have a brain or a nervous system is the same morally as rape?
I just answered this question. Were you like, I don't know.
Wait. I just want to make that super clear. You think that the physical and psychological trauma impacted upon a conscious agent during the act of rape, especially if it happens to a child, is as bad morally, or nearly as bad, or even, you know what? I'll be charitable to you.
Look, you see, this is like what happens when you zone out in mid conversations. You do this thing where you re-ask the same questions, your opponents already answered.
You think it's even in the same category of badness, action on something.
Yeah, just like how lying to someone is immoral. Just like how lying to someone is immoral. Yeah, just like how lying to someone is immoral, and you're under the same category.
I just want to make sure that was understood. That's like a real belief that you have. So you
of course, just like how deceiving someone. Yeah, do you understand there's like levels of immoral actions? It's like deceiving someone is immoral, and yet it is still the case that it falls under the same category as genociding people.
No, that's fine. I just think.
Okay, so we can have two. Yeah, so we can have two different immoral actions. Wait, hold on. To be really clear and concise about this, we can have two. Different immoral actions.
I think you should have to justify why that's comparable. Go ahead and do it.
You see what's happening here? You're in a spot where you should be listening more often because you're really not doing well here.
You're in a spot where you should be justifying why
more often is just going to expose
rape a child as it is to get an abortion on something that is barely conceived.
So just listen to the lecture I'm going to give you here. I'm going to give you a lecture. I'm going to give you a lecture because you need it right now.
You're in a position where you need to justify why the incestuous rape of a child is nearly as bad, categorically as bad.
No one is saying it's nearly as bad. No one said it. You're not tracking again. It's just far more rhetorically dominant. I said they're nearly as bad. It just falls under the same category of immoral actions.
Yeah.
Hold on, just to be really clear, this works. Just like how you just agreed, that Steven a friend is immoral, and
Go for it.
mass genocide and someone is immoral,
No, I
yes, they
understand. Go
both
ahead. Go
fall
ahead
under
and
the same
justify
category of
that
course. I
categorically.
don't
Go
want to
ahead and
meet you, dog.
justify
I
that
don't want to meet you.
aborting a zygote,
You just
which
agreed with
doesn't
that. You
have
just
the
said
brain,
that they're
doesn't have
immoral.
the nervous
You just
system.
agreed on
Go ahead and
recorded that
justify
this
that.
is someone is
Just
immoral. What are you
go ahead and
talking
justify
about?
that.
What are you
Go ahead and
talking
justify
about?
that. No, go ahead and
You
justify. I
agreed.
think we're all waiting.
You
I think we're all
agreed
waiting
that
for the
even
justification.
someone
I
is
think we're
immoral,
all
and you
waiting. I
also
think
agreed that
we're all
mass
waiting for
genocide
the
is someone is
justification.
immoral.
I
So
think we're
they
all waiting
both
for the
fall under the
justification
same
from you
category,
that
even
they
though
are in
they're
the
not
same
nearly as
category, that it
bad
is
as
in
each
the
other.
same
So
category
two
to abort a
things don't
zygote that
have
is
to be
barely
nearly
conceived,
as
that does not
bad
have
as
a
each
brain,
other
does not have a
for it to be
heartbeat,
the
has
case.
not taken a
For
breath,
it to be
does not
the
have
case
sentience,
that
does
they
not have
are
a
both
nervous system,
immoral.
does not feel pain, that is
Works. You
categorically in
just
the same
yap.
boat as incestuously
Blah
raping a
blah
child. You should
blah
justify that.
blah
You should
blah blah
justify that.
blah
You should
blah
justify that.
blah.
You should actually justify that.
Are you
I
done?
think you should actually
Are you done
justify that.
yapping? Okay, so now
Are
that
you
you're done
done not
skits
justifying it?
yapping,
Go ahead and
now that you're
justify
done
it.
skits yapping,
Go
what you're
ahead
trying
and
to do
explain to
here
everybody why
is
that's
you're trying
true.
to ask me for justification because you want me to ignore the points you've made previously, which I need
Go
to
ahead
press
and
you on.
explain to
Okay,
the
so I'm
chat.
gonna.
Go ahead and
You're
you made it
still in
clear
the
to the
corner
chat
right
that
now.
it is
You're still in the rat
categorically
trap,
as
man. I still
bad.
got you in the
Wait,
rat
this is
trap.
actually
Okay,
so bad
you're not
take.
gonna
This is
escape from the
actually
trap
so
yet,
bad
buddy.
take.
You're
You
not
made a
gonna
claim
escape
to
from
the
the trap,
chat
buddy.
that it is
I'm gonna
categorically
keep
as
you in
bad
this
to
corner. I'm
rape
gonna keep on
incestually a
pressing you on this
child
point
as it
until
is
you
to abort a
concede and
barely
drop the ridiculous
conceived
point you're making.
zygote that does
So
not
again,
have a brain,
Forks,
does not have a
Forks,
nervous system, does not
Forks.
have pain receptors, does not have a heartbeat, has
Oh, he's
not
not
taken a
done yet.
breath, and
He's
does
still
not have
spazzing out.
sentience. You made the
Forks,
claim
this
that
is
that
an
is
awful
categorically
performance.
as bad
I
as
don't
a
know what you're
father
doing.
incestuously raping his child. Go ahead and justify that. Go ahead and justify
Yeah,
that.
so again, we're going to go back to the points you've made because, for one, you failed to track.
So you're not
I was
going to
not making
justify
a claim
it? So you're
that
running
they're
away from
not
that
as
point?
nearly as bad as each other. And Forks,
You're
you
not going to
speaking over me and
justify
trying
it?
to say I'm not justifying something is
Well,
not
I know
going to
you're not
give you
going
the
to
optical
justify
edge
it
here.
because you know
It's not
that
going to
it's
make you have a
morally
rhetorical language
unjustifiable.
here. It's not
I
going to make you
know
look.
you're not going to justify it. You
It's
know
not going to
it's
make you look
rhetorically, sorry, not even
sincere in the
rhetorically.
conversation.
This isn't even
So
a matter of
Forks,
rhetoric anymore. This is just a matter of
Forks,
common sense,
calm
a matter
down.
of human
I know you want to
decency.
spur.
You know
I
that
know you're
as
a
a
little child deep down, and I know you're like a little child, but just
matter of
calm down, okay? You're really excited right now. So again, I'm just gonna repeat my
you're trying to run
point.
away to
Okay,
another
what
point
I'm
because you
saying
know it's
here,
unjustifiable.
Forks, what I'm saying here,
Dude,
yeah, I'm repeating my point
I'm just
because
asking
you're
you to prove it
repeatedly
that
not
you did.
tracking,
I'm just
not
asking you to
because
prove
of
it
the
that
fact
you
of
did.
dodging your question. You're repeatedly not tracking, so I have to repeat my points
No,
over and
you're
over
not
for the dumb
repeating
part.
your point. You're not
So
repeating
yeah,
your point.
that's what
You said
that's
that
what
you're
we
going to
do.
run back the
That's what
point
we
that
do
I
when
made
we're teaching
prior in the
special
debate.
ed. We have to
You
repeat the
said
point. If you
you
go over the
said
point
that
over
as
and over,
opposed to
you have to like
justifying your
basically break it
claim that it
down
is
to
categorically as
kindergarten
bad
level,
to
so
incestuously
the
rape a
person can
child as it is to
understand
abort
and
a
have some
zygote,
level of
you said
comprehension.
instead of
I
addressing
agree with you.
that
I'm
claim that
repeating
you
the point.
made,
I agree
you
with
would
you, man.
go run
I
back
have
the
to
claims
do
that
it,
I
man.
made 15
So
to
anyways,
20 minutes ago in the
Forks,
debate, dog.
Forks,
You
you want
understand
to
on a
spur
personal,
so badly. You're being so
instinctual
autistic,
level.
okay?
You
So again,
understand
Forks, I
instinctually.
know
You
you're like the
understand
down syndrome
intuitively.
is stepping in.
That
I don't
is
know
the
what's
most
going on, but you just need to
undefendable
calm
shit
down.
you've ever heard in your life.
Relax.
That's why you're
Take
not
a deep
defending
breather.
it. Because you know on
Forks,
an instinctual,
and you still, yeah,
you know on a
I know.
primal, you
Oh,
know
really?
on a
That's a bold thing. Yeah,
primordial
I
level,
know, man.
you
Yeah,
know
you
on a
got me
level
right
that
there.
transcends
Oh, look at
time.
this
You know
psychotherapy right
on a
there. Look at
level
this
that
professional
resembles
therapy. He's
Platonic
figuring me all out.
understanding. That is
Oh,
one of the
God, look
most
at this guy.
undefendable
Oh, look
positions
at this guy.
of all
So,
time.
anyways, you know the rhetorical strats are not working. You're not doing well. You're looking
No,
awful.
it's
You're
not
looking
even
like you're
rhetorical
embarrassed
strat.
here.
This isn't about rhetoric, dog.
You
This is
look at
about
the
common
calm
human
right here, and
decency.
that's fine.
This
We
is
all
about
expected the
common
tendency
human
to this
decency.
conversation. We never expected anything else. We all knew you'd have been like a floor. You'd have been like, I'll drag you through the
This is
mud. And
about
this is what's
common human
happening right now.
decency.
And that's fine.
It's
So,
not about
Forks,
rhetoric. It's
the
about
rhetoric,
common
you're
human
just
decency.
using all the
Why are
rhetoric.
you
Just
running away from
love
the
the
point?
fucking
Why are you running away
retard.
from the
Love
claim
fucking,
that
this is
you made
awful, right?
that it is
So
as
what we
bad,
need
not
here,
as bad,
what we
sorry.
need
You're
here
going to get
is
autistically mad if
we
I say
need you to
as
stop
bad.
providing
Why are you
intellectually
running away from the
uninterested
point
responses.
that it is
That's what we need. I'm not
categorically
running from
similar
the point.
to
I'm actually
abort a
chasing you right now.
zygote
I'm
that
running
is
towards
barely
you, and I'm chasing
conceived
you right now
to
because you're
protect
running
the
from the
rights
points
and
right now.
securities and
Okay,
bodily
so again,
autonomy of a sentient
getting
mother?
douche right
Why
now,
is that
just like really bad.
categorically in the
It's
same
sub
boat
50
as a
IQ performance
father
for
raping his child
This is a
incestuously?
stop.
Why is that in the same boat? Go ahead and defend that. Go ahead and defend that. Go ahead and address that. Go ahead and address
Are you done having the nervous breakdown?
Address it.
Are you done having the nervous breakdown? Are you done having the nervous breakdown? Okay, I'm glad you're calm. I'm glad you're calm.
Are you going to justify the claim that you made? Are you going to justify the claim?
So anyways, look at this guy. He's trying his best.
20 minutes ago that we already Which one
Sorry, you're not strong with the rhetoric. Yeah, your rhetoric needs a lot of proteins, man. So look, I'm gonna say, look, buddy, you do this thing again where you ask me a question and you're like venting the response. I know what you're doing, man. Like, what are you doing?
As it is to abort a zygote that is barely conceived, that has no nervous system, has no brain, has no
you're still having a nervous breakdown,
has no heartbeat. You won't justify that. You want to.
Okay, so Forks, I'm just gonna continue to my point. Okay, so again, you're running away. So no one made the claim.
I'm running away.
It is the case.
Justify your claim.
I don't want to meet you, man.
Running away.
I don't want to meet you.
This is embarrassing.
So
this is bad for you.
I'm not making the claim. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, since you're interrupting a lot,
what you're gonna do here?
If I mute you, when it's your turn to speak, I'll mute myself. Okay? So I'm going to respond to a couple of things. Okay, so firstly, no one made the claim that abortion as an activity is nowhere near as bad or is nearly as bad as raping someone or committing mass genocide. No, I'm saying and there are several things, and you're doing this thing again. You're interrupting because you're so intimidated, you're panicking, right? And I can see it. Yeah. So I mean, the proof is just that it is expected under the hypothesis that you're panicking that you be acting this way. So again, I'm going to respond to the points that you've been making. And Forks, just calm down. I'll give the evidence why abortion is immoral after you're done rambling and after you're done spazzing out. Okay, so firstly, that you just have to calm down before you're able to track the evidence and understand what is going on in the conversation. You have to stop spazzing out, Forks.
Because you took an all-time primordial like fucking justifier of doom of evil.
All you have to do right now is calm down.
Of existential dread. That's the
Forks, I'm just going to give the evidence right now. Okay, so first, before I give the evidence for why pro-life is obviously the case, right? I'm just going to elaborate on the fact, which is simply you can have, and you've already agreed to this, you can have two actions which are nowhere nearly as bad as each other, which falls under the category of immoral actions. You've agreed to this. You've said that this even is immoral, and you've said that they're not nearly as bad as one another. So when you're trying to ask me, oh, do you actually believe they're nearly as bad? That's a non-point, Forks. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's a non-point. No one is making that point. You just chat the boxing, dog. So again, if you want me to prove that pro-life is the case, I'll post my syllogism right now, and then I'll give the argument in favor of the premises. So let me just post my argument. And I'm glad you're calm. That's cute.
That was like a top 3 most homosexual thing I've heard all week. Look, gay pride, whatever.
Yeah, relax, buddy. Yeah, relax.
Yeah, here's the thing. Look, here's the thing, dog. I said multiple times. Look, even if you're gonna autistically screech about it, it's not just
even though you can't track conversations, even though you can't track conversations, even though you can't track conversations, I'm pretty sure you can read, right? Even though you can't track conversations, I'm pretty sure you can read the syllogism, right? You can do that.
Where does it say in the conclusion? Where does it say in the conclusion that therefore it's categorically bad, like raping your child? Where does it say that in the
conclusion? Yeah, so Forks, you're doing this again, you're just interrupting. So I'm gonna have to mute you for just one moment because you're like really, I don't know, you're just spazzing out. So even though I know you can't track conversations properly, at least this conversation, I'm pretty sure you can read properly, right? Or you can at least read the syllogism. So I posted it in the chat. We can just talk directly about this, okay?
So, that server music.
Yeah, I just had to do that one time because I want to get to the
doing heavy lifting, isn't it? Where does it say in the conclusion that therefore it's categorically in the same boat as a father raping his child? Because that's what I asked you to justify because you made
that's not the primary position of the defendant here.
Okay, so you're not going to defend. I know you.
And it follows from the conclusion that the category is
bad. It's a retarded position. It's a retarded position.
It's a retarded position. You're just too retarded to understand the position. Yeah. There's a difference between a position being retarded and you being too retarded to understand logical coherency. You back some position. Significant distinction, Forks. So again, Forks, it obviously follows from the conclusion being correct as they are both categorically bad. But I'm so sorry that
you just said you won't defend it. You just said you won't defend it. You just said you won't defend it. You just said you won't defend it.
And respond to my point.
You just said you won't defend it. So I'm going to go to what you said in text chat. We're going to go over the argument in text chat.
And by the conclusion,
you won't defend the retarded position of that is categorically in the same boat as a father incestuously raping his child. Because guess what?
This both fall under the category.
You know why? And I'm just going to say this one thing. You know why I know it's not in the same category? Because the saving grace.
Because you don't know anything right now. You're just like lacking knowledge.
That's a bold claim, man. The saving grace for the child who was brutally raped by her father might just be to get an abortion to save her the psychological and physical trauma in the future. So that's how I know that you were retarded about that position. Let's actually talk about what you put in.
You just said a whole bunch of nothing. Wow.
Because apparently
you did not track the argument.
Apparently
you don't understand the logical entailment of the simplistic conclusion, like the argument just presented a while ago. It's as if you're not doing well in the conversation, Forks. Oh my God, Forks, you gotta stop this. Again, just look and read the argument. Read the argument. I'm not sure if you have like, I don't know, you're like illiterate. You have like struggles with properly. You have struggles with understanding basic points properly. You have struggles with intelligent points. Okay,
Paula, I'll give you a full minute to talk to answer the question. I'll give you a full 60 seconds.
That's what you need right now to actually justify your bad performance here.
Do you think it's in the same category? So wait,
follows from the conclusion.
If a father rapes his daughter,
listen,
if a father rapes his underage 10-year-old daughter, that do you think that she is categorically bad just like him if she gets an abortion?
Not just like him, they're both under the same category of moral action.
Okay, so you do think that the daughter is categorically bad if she doesn't want her father's rape incest baby that he put inside of her forcefully at the age of 10 years old. You do think that these
Are you trolling? Are you trolling?
No, that's what you said. That's what you said.
Is this a meme, Alex?
That's what you said. To be clear, that's
I'm talking about abortion being immoral.
To be clear, yeah, that would be an abortion. You think it's categorically
bad? I don't think that justifies the termination.
You think it's categorically bad if
I think it's immoral, of course.
You think it's categorically just? Sorry, not.
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. I'll just explain to you why it is.
You think it's
I'll explain to you why it is. I'm going to ask you a question because you're speaking way too much. I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you a question.
He's doing something categorically bad.
No, hold on there, technical. So sorry, folks, because I have to mute you because you're speaking way too much. I'm very sorry about this. I have to mute you because you're spazzing out way too much. I'm going to ask you this question. Now, let's say we have a case where a father rapes his daughter, for example, and she gives birth to a baby. And then afterwards, she decides to not, be the mother of this child. She doesn't want to have this child anymore. She doesn't want to have possession of this child anymore. So what she does is she just stabbed the baby 18 times in the head, right? Just said like a newborn baby, just stabbed the baby 18 times in the head. Do you think that's moral because the causal explanation for this newborn baby is a rape incident? Yes or no? And if it is the case that no, you don't believe this, you don't believe it is immoral, then that's just obviously ridiculous. Like people are just going to intuit that that's obviously immoral. If you think yes, it is immoral, right? Then that's going to be something that hurts your position, by the way. So, yeah.
Yeah. So if I give an answer, will you allow me to explain my reasoning?
Of course, definitely. I'm not going to speak over you.
Yeah. So the answer is going to be, of course, it's not moral for her to stab it after the fact, because at that point, it's no longer inside of her body. At that point, it's no longer something she has to go through the delivery process of. It's no longer a rape incest baby inside of her womb for 9 months that this 10, 11, 12-year-old girl has to carry around, knowing that her father's rape incest pedophile baby is inside of her womb, knowing that when she delivers birth to it, it's going to tear her cervix. It's going to tear, I believe it's going to rip from the vagina opening all the way to the anus, potentially. Like, these are real medical consequences, especially if it's a child who's underdeveloped for her body. So of course, I think that the location is going to be relevant as to whether or not she can abort and therefore kill the child, unfortunate as it may be under your view, because I don't think that this little girl should have her pedophile father's incest rape baby inside of her like you seem to think that she should have to, and you seem to think that she should have to deliver that. So yeah, that's the answer to the question. We can talk about the argument you posted in text, but I think that that's intuitive to most people. I don't think most people, if you're going to depend on intuition, are going to co-sign, yeah, let the pedophile rape incest baby stay in this 10-year-old and mutilate her body when she delivers birth to it. Yeah, I don't think that's very
so I think most people, so the thing is, the problem with the response for, oh, you're not done speaking? You're not done?
No, that's everything.
Oh, your mic is echoed, by the way. I'm going to have to, I don't know what's going on. But I'm going to mute you just in case, because I know you're, really, you just can't control yourself. You have, speech impulse issues. That's crazy. Yeah, to respond to your point, I believe most people, and this is where the credibility of intuitions comes in, most people don't have a philosophically fleshed out intuition. Most people, they have first-hand intuitions, which, when reflected upon, has ridiculous entailments, has false entailments, etc., etc. And so I believe that when you're appealing to most people who don't have, or I would say has questionable intuitions about, for example, the matter, right? It is not actually good evidence which points in favor of your position. The intuitions actually is pretty close based on just the populace, just based on normal people. It's close between pro-life versus pro-choice, by the way. So it's not even as one-sided as you make it out to be. So that's number one. Number two, as I've said, the reason as to why it would both be moral is because I believe that, not even I believe, I know for a fact, right? Because believing is something you do because you don't know anything, right? So I know for a fact that it is the case that a fetus has sufficient moral value, just like how a newborn baby has sufficient moral value. I think a newborn baby has a more moral value than the fetus, but they both meet the threshold of moral value, which, if violated or compromised by a given moral agent, would be the type of thing which results in an immoral action in at least most cases. And so the arguments here, right, as opposed to this something which you have yet to respond to, I can go over the argument and I can prove to you why the fetus would actually have sufficient moral value, which would actually consider or rather justify the claim that even though the consequences or rather the cause behind the action is really unfortunate for the child, for the mother or for the daughter, it would still be immoral for that daughter to actually engage in this action because guess what? Two wrongs don't make a right. Okay, so it would still be wrong even though what the father did was much worse. So I'm going to unmute you right now and just expect a good response this time. See, muted. There you go, man. Go crazy, King.
Yeah, to be clear, I wouldn't exactly say that securing the protections and securing the fact that a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old girl is not getting psychologically and physically tortured and traumatized, I wouldn't say that that's a bad response to defend that position. Also, when you say that most people wouldn't intuitively believe this or would intuitively believe that, and then I would tell you something along the lines of, well, I mean, if you look at polling data, it seems to be the case that I believe at least most people favor pro-choice, and even among those who favor pro-life, a lot of them make rape and incest exceptions, which sides with my point. Look, if your response to that is just to say, well, these people are not philosophically informed, well, you're going to have to just basically give conjecture as to what they would believe if they were to be informed, which I don't think that's actually going to be reflective of reality as much as it's going to be reflective of your bias that you would hope that they would conform to your position, but you have no way of actually proving that. And then thirdly, I don't even know how you could ever prove that in the first place, kind of what I alluded to earlier, because if we break down all the medical facts, we break down the fact that, hey, there's at a certain point where it's not even confirmable. In fact, it's highly unlikely that they're sentient beings, and that if we allow this pregnancy to go through, it's going to cause, I would say, torturous and traumatic psychological and physical consequences onto the 10, 11, 12-year-old girl who was raped by her pedophile, incestuous father. I think that they would probably still have the intuition, right, that, yeah, maybe we shouldn't allow for that to happen. Now, if you want to question how I can know that that would be their intuition, it's how I strongly feel about it. I think that they would believe that, but I would likewise say, look, if you want to question whether or not that would be their intuition, I would just similarly question whether or not they would conform to your intuitions, which I don't think we have any way of proving. So that's the whole thing. Now, you got to eventually to say two wrongs don't make a right. I don't think that it's wrong that in the absence of sentience, especially in the absence of sentience, when we have a 10, 11, 12-year-old rape victim, that we would give them some sort of access
who deleted the recording?
That you said what?
Who deleted the recording? Okay, continue.
Yeah, look, I don't think that that's wrong. When you say two wrongs don't make a right, I don't think that that's wrong. Now we can get into, hopefully, I suppose, if it's wrong, why you think it's wrong, right? Maybe we can delve into that. I know you posted an argument in text, so we can go over that. But that's just going to be my response to everything you laid out.
So, just like how I did not interrupt you, I don't think you're going to interrupt me this time, right? Like, no interruption whatsoever.
Nah.
Okay, cool. So I don't have to mute you, so good. So to respond to a couple of things you've said, first and foremost, yes, I agree we can just get into the meat and potatoes as to why exactly this is the case, that it is true that this action is wrong. You said that actually, most people actually intuit that my position is correct. I did not deny this, folks. I never said that it is the case that most people believe that pro-life is true. What I said specifically is that most people don't have a philosophically fleshed out view or philosophically fleshed out intuition, which would grant it the sufficient levels of epistemic credibility for us to use that as a guideline for what is true of the world, especially about this topic itself. That's what I said. So you mentioning that most people believe in your position or intuit their position to be correct at face value is something which I don't disagree with, folks. Another non-point in the conversation. Now, to respond to something else you've mentioned, so even if I was to grant that this would be morally justified, which I don't grant, by the way, I still believe it is morally wrong because you've not mentioned a sufficient symmetry breaker between the example I've given and the case you've given, right? Even if I was to grant this, that would not be evidence for pro-choice because you have people who are pro-life generally. So they believe that, generally speaking, it is not the case that simply a mother choosing to do X is the type of thing which would justify the termination of fetus. What your claim is saying is that under most cases, not under these exceptional cases, whereas you have this incident of rape, whereas like a baby is a byproduct of a rape or involuntary sexual intercourse, not in these exceptional cases, but most cases, generally speaking, in the real world, it is completely okay. Once the mother chooses to not keep the child, it's okay. There's no issue with that, right? Even in the first trimester, for example, that's what they're basically arguing here. And I'm saying here specifically that this point, right, that you're making, right, the example you're given currently does not share a strong connection or justificatory support for the points you're making or the overarching position you defended in this debate right now. So I can even grant this, which I don't grant, by the way, and I can give the evidence for it is morally wrong, right, give the probabilistic evidence, and it would still be the case, that your position does not succeed when it comes to, the evidential value, does not have enough, evidential merit, okay? So, your response now, I'm done speaking.
Yeah, you were either half listening or I don't know if you just lied about what I said.
I was fully listening, by the way.
Clear, what I said was not that, people on the face of it agree with me on an intuitive level, therefore I'm correct. That's not even what I said. What I said was that, look, number one, we can look at the polling data, and that's true. But number two, even if we grant what you said, which is to say that most people are not philosophically informed, and therefore there's less validity to what their current intuitions are on the face of certain issues, that's fine. But you are the one who primarily brought up using intuitions as supporting evidence for your side, and you therefore would have to make some sort of argument, that is to say that if these people were philosophically informed, that they would majority be on your side, which I don't think you can prove, and at best you're just going to present some sort of bias, and you're going to hope that they would conform to that view because that's the view that you hold. But I don't think you could actually give any solid evidence that that's the view they would actually hold. And I gave a compelling argument as to why they wouldn't hold that view when they're kept up with all the medical facts about the psychological and physical torture and trauma a 12-year-old little girl would endure going through pregnancy and childbirth. When I informed them about the philosophical arguments about sentience, how they would allow for that torture and trauma to occur to that 12-year-old little girl for something that literally does not start out with sentience and can be aborted before it gains sentience. With all these things in mind, the intuitions argument you gave is, I just think it's kind of hopeless, to be honest. Now, as for, your questioning of whether or not I gave enough evidence for my position, maybe, I'm going to give you the chance to run back the second half of what you said, because I was too focused on the first half. It was just so full of tracking errors. What was the thing that you said about why my position doesn't go through and your position is right? Can you just rehash that?
I don't know if you're accusing me of tracking errors, but that'd be ironic considering you don't remember the other parts. But what I'm basically saying here, my mic is echoing.
Well,
it's your mic for it. So basically what I was talking about really is that the position you're defending here would not be, or the exceptional case you're talking about here would not be sufficient for justifying the position you're taking, right? The primary position you're taking here, which is that once the mother chooses to abort a child, then it is morally justified to do such. Generally speaking, not just in exceptional cases.
Are you just meaning to say that the argument that's pro-sentience that I gave earlier wasn't sufficient? Because I don't really feel like backpedaling.
No, the exceptional case you've given would not be sufficient, not the argument. We could grant it, okay, it's like, here's an exceptional position. Right?
Okay, good.
Yeah, so pro-sentience, right, is basically just, and you're already aware of this, right? So you value sentience, basically. And so what I'm basically trying to get at here is simply that you'd have to be defended that, generally speaking, if not in all cases, in the real world, it would be the case that we should secure the protection of sentient beings over the fetus. And in this case, secure you could say the choice of the mother. My mic's echoing, so I'm going to have to mute you. I'm very sorry about this. Just be yourself. Yeah. So you're basically saying that given pro-sentience, given your position here, right, it would be the case that the rights, or rather the choice of the mother over the fetus, which is not conscious, generally speaking. And so this case you're given does not map onto the generality. It's not the case that in most cases abortion is as a result of rape, for example. This is not something which maps onto the generality. And so it would not be a sufficient condition for justifying that in both rape and non-rape cases, it's okay completely for the mother to abort the fetus under the condition that she wills that's happening. And so we can get into the moralistic analysis of the action. We can get into the argument. I don't think this point you're on is really that substantive. I think this is just merely a matter of disagreement on the beliefs we have. And so I think we should get onto the argumentation which backs up the beliefs we have right here. Okay? If that's fine.
Well, we already got onto it. So the main
I'm not going into my argument yet, so I wouldn't take.
Okay, well, the main argument for my argument was like 20 minutes ago, where I said that, look, in the majority of abortion cases, or I don't think I said those words specifically, but I'll say them now since you brought up, I guess, numerics or quantity. I mean, look, you'll remember the position I outlined was in the absence of sentience or the absence of definitive proof of sentience, I'm always going to side with the mother when it comes to her choice over her bodily autonomy. And that's something that's going to map onto the data of when most abortions occur, most of them being within the first trimester, most of them being very early on. Those are going to map onto that model. So that's to say, I don't think that this quantity criticism of whether or not most abortions majority happen in when you think they should happen. Yeah, they do. So I don't really think that's a real criticism. If you want to get onto your argument for pro-life, I suppose that's fine. But I think we've already covered my pro-choice arguments.
Yeah, so just check out the arguments. I'll get back to your arguments afterwards. I think like the arguments you're given was just the echoes again. Yeah, so yeah, you can just look at my arguments. I think the arguments you gave was poor, and we can go back to that afterwards in the latter part of the dialogue before we give a conclusion on the debate itself. So just look at my argument and then just give me the premises you disagree with.
Hold on, I'm scrolling to find it. Here it is. If the termination of morally valuable potential positive valences is immoral, irrespective of the desire to do such, then the abortion is immoral. Termination of morally valuable potential positive valences. Okay. What do you mean by morally valuable potential positive valences?
They're just positive valences which are morally valuable, which are the types of things which are, if compromised in a given object, would result in an immoral action in most cases, all else being equal. Oh shit, Ramaj match is going to start. I'm going to have to finish this up pretty soon. So, Forks, I'm saying that, like, what I mean by a morally valuable potential positive valence, alright? I'm talking about, basically, by morally valuable, all I'm referring to are the relevant facts of a given object, which contributes to the moral status of that object, which, if compromised or violated, results in an immoral action, all else being equal.
Okay, so another thing where I'm confused, I guess we can get back to that. It seems like all you're meaning to say is that if it's immoral to terminate morally valuable things, then abortion is immoral. Now, obviously, it's going to be into question whether or not that is immoral, whether or not these subjects are morally valuable in the first place. And that's to say, I don't really think that premise one is saying much of anything. It's just saying that it's immoral to terminate something that is morally valuable. See, I think you should get into why it's morally valuable. And why
the reason why it's morally valuable is just, you can just eliminate the morally valuable part, because that was like a recent edit, because you can question that. The reason why it's morally valuable, though, is based on the fact that terminating this thing would result in an immoral action, all else being equal.
Yeah, why?
Reason being that we have like a inductive case actually. So most things which involves termination of potential positive valences are the types of things which are immoral in the real world, and still be strong evidence in favor of my position being correct.
Wait.
So all cases of murder would be evidence.
Okay.
All murder cases.
So you said most things that are in termination of morally positive. I don't like that term. I would like some disambiguity on that term, because I
ignore the morally valuable part. Just talk about just ignore that part, okay?
So what do you want me to focus on? Potential?
Okay. If the termination, let's look at the argument real quickly. Let me put the arguments again. Let's see where it is. Yeah. So I'll just rephrase the first premise. If the termination of potential positive valences is immoral, if the termination of potential positive valences is immoral, irrespective of the desire to do such, then abortion is immoral.
I'm not familiar with what valences means.
Valences are emotional values associated with experiences. You can have positive valences and you can have negative valences. I can just elaborate further.
That the eradication of potentially positive experiences is immoral.
Yeah, so positive valences examples are like happiness, joy, satisfaction, right?
So then what if the positive valence of the mother is predicated upon getting an abortion? Hello?
Give me a sec because someone is breaking up.
Anyways, whoever wanna join to play chess, join right now.
I already said I'm gonna play it.
guess we'll wait.
What did you say? Yeah, I'm back now.
Yeah, I said, what if the future positive experiences of the mother is predicated upon getting an abortion? Should she have the ability to get an abortion?
Well, wait. Firstly, give me 1 second, because someone is like speaking to me.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, so basically, I'm just talking about the fact that, like, yeah, we could agree that it's possible that the positive necessarily from the action of abortion, right? Insofar as the mother has positive valences, whatever. But at the same time, we're talking about the inductive case, which supports the idea that the determination of potential positive valences is the type of thing which is immoral, and so murder is a strong case against that thing you're talking about. So in most cases with murder, for example, which involves the same exact, well, we could say similar process insofar as you have a termination of potential positive valences, it does not result in positive net utility.
Okay, so then by that logic, if it is the case that positive potential valences for the mother and her experiences in life would be predicated upon whether she can get an abortion, such as in the case we were talking about earlier, if it's like a 10-year-old like rape incest victim, or like a regular adult rape victim, or if it's like a regular adult whose circumstances in life has taken a downturn, or a regular adult who has having a medical emergency, they should therefore be given the option or the choice to have an abortion, and to prevent them from doing so would be immoral.
That depends on the presupposition that the future experiences, the future potential positive experiences, this fetus would be experiencing. Mike is that going, by the way? Yeah, so it depends on the presupposition that whether a fetus you're eradicated, right, would have less positive experiences throughout its lifespan than the positive experiences that this mother would gain from just simply eradicating said fetus.
Well, aren't you making a similar presupposition that the fetus would be projected to have more positive life experiences than the mother if she were to go through with the pregnancy? Are you not making the exact
I just think they have enough to the point for it to be immoral for it to be the case to terminate the future.
Wait, justify that. This is a very ambiguous statement.
Yeah, so we just go based off like cases of murder. So like for any case of murder, it is the case that it is a termination of potential positive valences, and that thing is actually.
Wait, that's not what I asked.
Wait, hold on. You asked me to justify. You asked me to justify the claim I'm making here, and I'm trying to justify by just speaking over me.
No, that's not what I asked you to justify.
Yeah, no, you asked me to justify. You asked me to justify the claim whether the baby would have more positive experiences than the mother directly from this action. That's what you're asking me to justify.
Okay, go ahead then.
Yeah, so I'm saying specifically that if we look towards the data, right, or most cases which involves the termination of the possibility of potential positive experiences, right, that means that it is the case that it is, well, by termination specifically talking about it is impossible for this being to have any positive experiences in the future, by the way. So in the case of the mother, right, if the mother carries out with the pregnancy, it is not the case that she carrying this out would make it impossible for her to experience positive valences. But in the case of the fetus, it would actually make it impossible for the fetus to have positive valences if he was to be eradicated, if he or she was to be eradicated, right? And so what I'm saying here is that given the inductive case of murder cases, whereas for any single murder that occurs, which is immoral, by the way, right, it is the case that it involves termination of positive valences. Those cases are immoral. And so considering that this is also inclusive of the termination of potential positive valences, then it would be the case that given that data, the proposition that I'm defending is more likely than the negation.
Yeah, you didn't really say anything though. All you told me is that, well, terminating the life of the fetus makes it impossible for it to have positive potential experiences, and that the mother not having an abortion does not make it impossible. That doesn't actually inform.
Yeah, so it doesn't terminate her potential possibility.
That doesn't actually inform me of the calculus that you're doing to say that had the fetus not been aborted, that it would have had more positive potential experiences than the mother would have
Irrelevant,
had she not gotten the. Wait, that's the calculus you need to do. Wait, that's the calculus that's what you need to do. Because to be clear, the reason we're on this point is because I flipped your logic back onto you. I said, okay, if it's really about deeming it immoral, if it's about deeming it immoral to prevent potential positive experiences, we can make that same argument about the mother. To which you said, well, yeah, but I would favor the baby in that calculus. Okay, well then justify.
That's not what it does. Holy crap. So, of course, I'm going to mute you for a second because your mic is echoing badly. So, the case you've given failed. It flopped. It was an embarrassment. It was atrocious. The reason being that if the mother carries out the pregnancy, it does not result in a termination of her potential positive valences. It is still possible for her to experience positive things in the future, right? She can have some sort of like, she can, you could say, come back from this negative experience, right? It doesn't terminate the potentiality of positive valences. However, she eradicated the fetus, terminates the possibility, okay, of potential experiences, of positive experiences for the fetus. Just like how every case of murder terminates the potentiality of positive valences. If you kill someone, they won't experience anything good in the future, especially in the real world, because they're fucking dead, forks. And the same thing applies here. So we're not talking about the utility calculus necessarily about whether or not it is the case that, well, you know, the mother could actually experience more positive experiences from more than not. We can suspend judgment on that. The argument isn't about the utility calculus in the actual world. The argument is based off an inductive case of immoral actions, right, which results in termination of potential positive experiences. As evidence for it being the case, this would be true for the abortion, that it is immoral based off the same criteria, right? So you're not given a response here, Forks. Your logic did not get successful, or rather my logic did not get successfully flipped back onto me. You just did not even track and understand what my logic even is. So I'm going to unmute again. Hold on, give me a second. Your mic is echoing for some reason. Like, I don't know what's going on. There you go, man.
Yeah, server muting me to get your rhetoric off is a bad look, dog. Like, to be clear, if it's about categorically having experiences or positive experiences sealed off, essentially, then that's also just true of, you know, the cases that I'm talking about. Look, if it's the case that a 10-year-old child is incestuously raped by her father, and that for the next 5, 10, 15 years, she has, you know, issues getting into romance, issues with physical touch and connection, issues with emotional withdrawal, psychological trauma. To be clear, she cannot get that time back. Those are 5, 10, 15 years that this raped child that, you know, you forced to go through childbirth, you know, those are terminated positive experiences. You cannot go back in time. Okay, time is linear. Okay, I don't know if you know this. So to be clear, if all you're saying is that there's like a categorical distinction in that if you kill somebody, that is the eradication of potential positive experiences, well, there's also eradication of potential positive experiences for these incest rape victims that their pedophile fathers or uncles or brothers or nephews or not nephews or cousins put them through. That's also occurring, you know, under the position that you're defending. I don't really.
How is it impossible? Sorry, not finished. Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, it's impossible because you cannot go back in time. Those years that you spend.
Okay, so I didn't finish the question. How is it impossible? That's under. I don't think you understood the question. I'm going to finish the question. Mute your mic, please. Mic is echoing a lot. I'm not muted because I'm trying to get Reddicoff. Marty, get into Reddicoff. Even when you're not muted, it's just that your mic is just bad for some reason. So I'm saying, yeah, just mute your mic, please. Thank you. So again, to continue with my point, you're not actually establishing here that it is the case that it is impossible for her to experience anything positive in the future in virtue of the fact that she had a very traumatic experience in the past. There are several cases where people has, you know, came back from the experiences. There are cases where people have came back from death, where they actually got resurrected and then they came back to live again. That's been proven. There's no evidence of this. This is not. There are cases though of people actually entering rehabilitation programs and coming back from traumatic experiences, and thus these cases would falsify the claim that it is impossible for her to experience anything positive in the future because of a very traumatic experience in the past. That's a dumb claim, folks. That was a dumb argument, folks. If you're on successful points, again, that was the third part of you not even track what I'm even saying here, because again, we're not talking about the actuality of utility calculus here. We're talking about here is this potentiality point, which is good evidence in favor of my position, given the fact of the inductive case I've just established. So I want you to give a response again, folks.
Yeah, I don't really think you understood. I know sympathy is hard for extreme pro-lifers, but it's just extending sympathy to the idea that you cannot get time back. But look, if you want to talk about say, for example, that any person who masturbates in the shower?
You bugged out for me. Repeat that, please.
Yeah, are you going to say that for any person who, for example, is, I guess, pleasuring themselves in the shower, and they're not otherwise, intending to impregnate somebody, if that person does that, obviously they ejaculate and that, that sperm goes to waste. I mean, is that the erasure of potential positive valences? Is that immoral? Or maybe for a more, I guess, direct example, if somebody uses an IUD, to, disrupt the flow of sperm once they're inseminated as a form of birth.
That doesn't work.
Or if somebody, IUDs have a 99% success rate. Or if somebody takes...
Because it is not possible for a sperm cell by itself to have...
Still talking.
Continue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or if somebody...
I just have like a strong impulse to interrupt your target point. My apologies.
IUDs can also cause miscarriages post-conception, right? Which is to say, I don't think you would say that is massively immoral. Or if you would, I would say that's absurd, okay? If you think that we have to maximize the potential positive experiences for things that are sperm cells or things that are conceived or barely conceived, and that we would do so at the detriment, at the human incubation of sentient mothers, I just think that's an absurd psychopathic position. It lacks sympathy. I think it lacks logic, all things considered. And no, I don't really accept these potential arguments. I don't think potential is going to override the actualized beings that we're supposed to legally and morally protect. I think that's a cowardly position to have.
Yeah, that's like another Cerber response, right? So the sperm cell argument doesn't work because, for one, when we're talking about potential here, we're not even talking about logical possibility. We're talking about practical possibility. So in practice, given the real world events, given the set of trials, or given the total number of cases, are there any successful trials or cases of this happening? The answer is no. There are no cases of an unfertilized sperm cell having experience. It does not have that potential. It needs to be fertilized for it to gain this potential, okay? So there are different types of potencies in philosophy, by the way, and we can get into that afterwards, but it does not possess the necessary or the relevant potency or potential I'm talking about, okay? So it does not have the potential by itself to have positive experiences. That's not sure. It only has or gains this potential upon fertilization. So that was a non-response. Please don't interrupt.
Neither do babies. They cannot get experiences by themselves. They require the body of the mother. They can't do it independently either. They need the body of the mother.
And you're interrupting again. You're interrupting again.
Actually, address that point. I'll drop every other point. Address that point.
Yeah, so I'm going to continue my point, right? So again, your point does not work. Your point does not work. Your point does not work based off a couple of things, right? So the potential, and you're still interrupting again. This is crazy. You're still interrupting again. I'm gonna have to mute you one more time. Sorry, I'm very sorry. So look, right? That's the first response. The second response is based off the probability, right, of a sperm cell resulting in positive experiences, in contrast with the fetus, for example, right? So we not just value the fact of potential, right, potential positive experiences, but also the probability of this actually being actualized, okay? And so, for one, it is non-analogous because the probability of a sperm cell being fertilized or even having a positive experience is really low because of the fact that each time you ejaculate, for example, you release several thousands of sperm cells, okay? Several thousands of sperm cells, okay? So that means, and then we know that only one sperm cell actually gets fertilized. So it's 1 divided by that several thousand sperm cells, which would make the probability of even a sperm cell being the type of thing which has positive experiences being extremely low. Okay, so the probability distinction is very relevant, and the points you're making regarding the potential thing would not even matter here. So we can just unmute you right now. There you go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you pro-lifers like to have your cake and eat it too, because you'll bring up, oh, it's about positive potential, blah, 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 blah. I'll be like, okay, well, what about instances of sperm cells? What about even in the
How does he do that?
Even in the examples of when it's a conceived entity, like it's endured conception, like I think that kind of potential is ridiculous. Look, if your answer to all those arguments is just going to be that, well, sperm cells cannot independently come to experience, well then neither are the fetuses or zygotes that you're defending, dog. They rely on the mother's body to develop them sufficiently such to the point that they can experience in the first place. This is a known fact. This is biologically true. This is why abortions, as defined by the termination of pregnancy, result in the death of the fetus or the zygote, because in the absence of that environment, there is no future experience for it. So, and I don't think you're really going to provide the satisfying answer to this. I think you're going to try to dance around it. Can you answer how do these entities even qualify for your consideration, considering the fact that they are not independently able to achieve some sort of positive experience? They rely on the body of the mother, just like sperm relies on exterior forces to reach the egg. You understand that, right? So go ahead.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Are you going to respond to the second objection or points I made to your points?
No, I didn't even really care to. I think that that's the point.
Probability objection?
Right now. Because I think you should have to answer to that. I think that even the standards that you give, because I think
That's not even necessary to answer to.
There's a dilemma.
I've given the response by giving the probability distinction.
Because of the dilemma.
Yeah, so the thing which makes it the case, what you're not understanding here, hold on, you're rambling again. You're actually rambling again. Just calm down. You're rambling again. So what we're talking about here is literally because you're really being hyper pedantic on the potential thing. We can be just as pedantic, and that's fine, right? What we're talking about here is, and this is why I mentioned initially my first argument before I tweaked it for you, because you had an issue with how it was being phrased. We're talking about morally valuable, potential positive experiences. And so the sperm cell you're talking about here, under some modal scope, it has potential positive experiences, but not under the relevant one I was talking about firstly, and secondly, it does not have morally valuable potential positive experiences. There are things which has morally or potential positive experiences, like for example animals, but I don't believe it is immoral to kill animals to eat them. And that's why I mentioned morally valuable potential positive experiences in my first argument, which I had to tweak because it didn't issue with tracking the argument, and it didn't issue without the arguments being phrased initially. So the sperm cell argument doesn't work for two reasons. One reason primarily, which is simply that it does not have the type of potential positive valences which are morally valuable. And the reason behind this being the case is based off a probability distinction. So we value things, or we determine the morality of an action usually based off, you could say, the probability of the consequence of that action being negative or positive. That's how we approach debates and even moralistic analysis. We determine it based off probability for the main part. And so the probability of a sperm cell gaining positive experiences for any sperm cell X, gaining positive valence in the future, is significantly low in comparison to the probability of, let's say, a fetus which has already been fertilized, gaining positive experiences and positive valences. And so this probability distinction makes it the case that it is not morally valuable, right? The potential positive valences of sperm cells are not morally valuable, in contrast to what the potential positive valences of the fetus that we're talking about, the zygotes we're talking about here. So that's just to clarify and to expose and to demonstrate the ridiculousness and the preposterous nature of your non-point, okay? So I'm gonna unmute you right now. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah, so to clarify and demonstrate and illuminate and illustrate the preposterousness and the absurdity and the ridiculousness and the craziness and the absurdity and the insanity and
the damn point.
Yeah, right. Nah, my fault. I was just doing the Apollo rhetoric. Look, so when you,
Appreciate it, man.
I'm gonna explain something to you. Look, when we're doing a dilemma in some sort of argument, which is what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to propose a dilemma, and I noticed that when I tried to explain how that wasn't a concession, because you tried to frame it as, oh, so you're dropping the point, and then I tried to explain how it wasn't, and then you server muted me again because you're like a bootleg ask yourself.
Your mic is echoing, yeah. It's really bad.
No, it's because you're a bootleg ask yourself, and you don't like when I make points. But the thing was, the dilemma was this: either you're going to concede that sperm cells do have positive potential in this way, and that therefore it is like a genocide or it is like murder to waste them, which is obviously an absurd position to hold, or you would say that, and you did say this, that in the case of a conceived zygote, it is independently capable of achieving some sort of positive conscious experience, whereas a sperm cell is not. That is what you said. You said that the difference maker was not probability, right? But was whether or not one could independently achieve these positive experiences in a way that the other could not. Now, the obvious problem with that is that that's actually not true of a conceived zygote. It is not true that they can independently achieve that state because they're entirely reliant on developing through the mother's body in the first place and her nutrients to achieve that state. So to be clear, I don't accept this probability argument. It's not even what you forwarded in the first place. And again, if you're going to apply your standards to the zygote and you're going to say that it's similarly dependent on the mother's body, right? Well, then it's categorically in the same class as the sperm cell, which I would assume you have no real moral consideration for in the first place. I don't, I have very limited time actually. Can we wrap this up soon? Hello?
Yeah, so I'm back. So anyways, you say you don't accept the probability stuff. That's pretty easy to prove. We can just determine this based off the ratio of miscarriages to carriages, successful carriages in pregnancy, and compare that to basically the ratio of fertilized sperm cell, which is just 1 to the hold on, just relax real quickly. You're having a nervous breakdown again because you're getting blown the fuck out again. Calm down. So yeah, you're doing this weird rhetorical strategy where you try to speak over the person, you distract them from what you're blown the fuck out on. And that's fine, I expect that from you. Okay, so look, I'm going to continue with the response, and you're just berging out. Forks, I did not interrupt you even once. I muted my mic, so I'm going to mute your mic when I'm speaking, okay? And that's just fair. I mute myself when you're speaking. And you can't say, oh, we know he's scared, because I mute myself when you're speaking. Look, all I'm saying here is pretty simply that, for one, you're saying that you did not accept the probabilistic inference argument I've given here, which, for one, I can demonstrate, for one, that the probability or the ratio between miscarriages to carriages, right, in pregnancy is different, radically different from the ratio of fertilized sperm cell to unfertilized sperm cell during sexual intercourses and ejaculation, right? And the ratio does not favor your position, right? It just makes it very unlikely for a sperm cell to become the type of thing which is the type which experiences positive experiences, because not only is it the case that this one sperm cell out of these thousands of sperm cells has to be fertilized for it to gain the potential of positive experiences, but it also has to be a successful carriage and not a miscarriage for it to even gain such. So it has to go through 2 standards, right, which decreases the probability of it even experiencing anything positive in the future to begin with, in comparison to a already fertilized egg, right? And so your argument does not work, dog. Now, to basically respond to the other thing you've said said I need to concede a specific point. For one, we're talking past each other on the potentiality point. I don't even think we're mentioning the same modal scope on the potentiality point. And secondly, even if we were, the originally structured argument I've given in the chat, right, and it is on recording, by the way, is simply the termination of morally valuable potential positive valences. And so, again, sperm cells do not have moral value. The reason behind this being the fact that we don't have the intuition, like I don't think anyone has the intuition that we ought not to ejaculate, right? No one has that intuition whatsoever. No moral agent has this intuition. That absence of intuition is very, very strong evidence against that position, all is being equal. So it's strong evidence in favor of the position that has no moral value. And so as a result of this, every characteristic which comes alongside it, including the potentiality of it having positive valences, would not possess what is called moral value. And so that's just to eliminate the supposed reduction of line there. So it doesn't even work against the first premise. It doesn't fall under the category of things with morally valuable potential positive valences for us. I'm very sorry about this. I know you thought you landed for a moment. I know you thought you were cooking for a moment, but you fucking like burnt to the entire kitchen, dog. So look, I'm just going to unmute you again and see if you have a better response. Let's go, man.
Like I said in chat, the thing that you do is that you'll pull these little Motte and Baileys where you say one thing and then you'll either switch up later to where you say a different thing, or in another case, you'll just misrepresent what I said or why I said it, to which I try to correct you on it, and then you server mute me, and then you go a minute and a half where you explain something totally irrelevant, and then I unmute, and I have to explain for a full minute why what you said was irrelevant, and then I actually get to the point, which is very, very grating, and that's why I look, you want to conclude very soon. Look, the point is, the reason I reject probability is not because I reject the empirics of it, I reject the ratios that you just delved into for the past 2 minutes. I reject probability because that's not the original distinction you gave me. The original distinction you gave me, which is why I called it a Motte and Bailey, where you start with a much harder to defend position before swapping to an easier one. Yeah, the distinction was that a conceived zygote can independently reach a state of positive experiences in a way whereas a sperm cell cannot. I said that that's not true because a conceived zygote is still just as reliant on something external to itself as a sperm cell, that being the body of the mother to feed it nutrients and allow it to develop. Its existence and progression is entirely reliant upon that. So I think your past 2 minutes were just wholly irrelevant for that reason. I would like to conclude. If we're not concluding next, I just gotta leave. I haven't had breakfast. I'm a little, just tired of the conversation. So
Yeah, I haven't had the breakfast either, and I have a match to actually catch here. You've not actually responded to the fact that it is morally valuable, or rather, the sperm cells do not possess the morally valuable thing I was talking about there. And so the responses given was just non-substantive. It was just inefficient. And so I will just fully elaborate on the argument I've given, and then we can touch back onto your argument for pro-choice one more time, and then we can conclude. Okay, that's going to be pretty simple. So you don't grant the first premise, but the first premise of my argument is justified based off the inductive case of termination of morally valuable potential positive valences, like any case where you murder someone, that's immoral. So that strong inductive case to make it the case that it is more expected under the hypothesis that abortion is immoral. It is more expected under, it's more expected under that hypothesis that we'd have this data, right, which is that the termination of X would be immoral. And we know for a fact this data is correct. It is accurately reflective of reality. So that's strong evidence in favor of my position. Strong objective evidence, by the way, is not based on any subjective values that you've been appealing to for the past 30 minutes to justify pro-choice. So we can just retouch on your argument for what pro-choice, or why pro-choice is morally accurate or morally justifiable, or is not deserving of moral condemnation, right? So
if we already went over, I do not want to backtrack, dog. Look, if we
I just want to check. So what was your argument?
I'm not even going to say anything in response to you if you do want to backtrack upon it. Like, I actually just want to finish up.
We prolonged, or rather we postponed the points you made because of the fact it wasn't really going anywhere at the time to speed up the debate. So that's the reason we're on my argument right now.
I'm just
and so I'm going back to what your argument was.
We're not going to conclusions in like the next minute, bro. No, I just got to leave call. Like I'm just
okay, so you can give a conclusions first since you're like harm per conclusion.
Yeah, I guess so. Look, at the end of the day, I think it was very clearly made that, I'm going to value sentient life, confirmably sentient life, over life which is either not sentient or life which does not have definitive evidence towards being sentient. I think that's pretty obvious. I think that's pretty intuitive. We got into the intuitions about it a little bit. Look, Apollo can say that intuitively the only reason why people do not agree with his side more, or that they agree with my side more, is because they're not philosophically informed. At the end of the day, that's just going to be conjecture. He has no way of confirmably predicting or proving his predictions to be right as to whether these people would side with him intuitively if they were to be given philosophical access. So I don't even really think that's a point for him. I think the intuitions with that lie on my side. What else do we go into? I mean, we just had like a conversation about potential positive valences, which is just to say that Apollo argued that it's immoral to cut somebody off from future potential positive experiences. I argued that that would be happening to a certain extent when you're preventing a woman from getting an abortion, if her future positive experiences are somewhat reliant on that. So we got into an argument about that a bit, and whether or not at the end of the day we should even be granting value via potential positive valences towards unborn children, which is the conversation we just had. Honestly, God, just fucking watch the recording, dog, if you're confused about anything that went on. I felt like my responses were fine, but I feel like I just got hit by unlimited void because like the last 2 hours were just like a constant flow of information.
Yeah, you're brain dead right now. You're gonna blow the fuck out. So look, I'm just gonna give my conclusions real quickly. Oh, you're not done?
No, I was just gonna say, just watch the recording. Conclusions are a little overrated. I just wanted them to get out of the debate.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my conclusions. So my opponent, Forks, well, unsurprisingly, has failed repeatedly to corroborate his position. His argument for pro-choice is actually pretty bad. He said that it is the case that fetus has no moral value, and it has no moral value based off the fact that, well, he doesn't assign it any protection or any rights, really, in the sense that we were talking about. And so I asked him for the definition of moral value, to which he said, moral value is determined based off we protecting or we assigning some level of protection rights to a given being, right? And then I was asking him, what does he mean by we? And he said that the person's carrying out the moral evaluation, which would prove that fetus has moral value because there are people who assign protection to this. So the proposition he actually mentioned to justify pro-choice failed. It didn't actually justify pro-choice. In fact, it resulted in a contradiction where it's given this definition of moral value. It actually results in it being the case that the claim he made is false. And who the fuck just interrupted my freaking conclusion? Shut the fuck up. So to continue real quickly, okay, don't know who did that, right? It actually results in a contradiction to his point, right? He said fetus has no moral value, but then given this definition of moral value, it entails it having moral value. That's number one. Number two, outside of that, really, he got destroyed in the truth-making points, some sub-points, really, which aren't that relevant. And then I asked him to, well, I went to my argument, really, and he mentioned a couple of reductios, did not respond to the inductive case. One of the reductios is simply, he believes that simply, I should say, cutting off the mother from, he believes that, like, it is the case that in the father incest case he was talking about, you're basically terminating the mother's future positive experiences, which is not even true, by the way. It is possible for the mother to actually come back from traumatic experience. We have seen several cases of people coming back from traumatic experiences, which falsifies the claim that there's a termination of the possibility of her experiencing positive violences in the future. That was a false claim. That was a bad counter argument that debunk failed and fell flat on its head completely. To respond to the other unsuccessful and unsubstantive debunk he has attempted to give towards my argument, he mentioned the sperm cell reduction, but poorly the Forks forgot that my first premise mentioned morally valuable potential positive experiences. And so for one, I've given the argument that's why we don't even have the potential to experience such, but even for it to grant it has the potential to do such, this potential is not morally valuable because of the strong evidence which points against this. The evidence being no moral agent having the intuition to say that we ought not to ejaculate. No one would say this, okay? So the strong intuitions we have against that position or in favor of that position will be evidence against his attempted reductive against my argument. So the sperm cell argument failed due to the fact that the first premise specified morally valuable positive valences or potential positive valences, which the sperm cell does not possess and the fetus does in fact possess, by the way. And secondly, he failed to actually just address the inductive case, really. He failed to address the fact that the mother reductio he gave did not even work. And so his argument for pro-choice did not work. The sperm cell reduction did not work. The mother reductio with the father incest rape bullshit did not even work either. I mean, everything was just an embarrassment from Forks' end, and really and truly I expect him to look back onto this performance and reflect on what he could have done better and learn from this. Okay, that's my conclusions.
What a splendid debate.
That was it. So, Shinra, you can end the recording. Shinra, are you recording?
That guy's definitely AFK right now, bro.
Yo, what's good, chat?
What up, BB?
What's good?
Yeah, no, he's recording extra gameplay just to make sure he has enough for the full recording.
Okay, guys. At the time, who do you think won the debate?
I think he won.
Dubs.
I think your granny won. She's pretty powerful.
It was definitely an interesting debate. I don't know, I was only here for like the past half an hour though, so I wasn't here for like the entire thing. Apparently it ran for like 2 hours or something.
Almost 2 fucking hours, actually.
Holy shit.
Bro, I can't lose this one now. I can't lose this now. I can't lose it now, okay?
What are you playing?
I'm playing Dragon Ball FighterZ. Bro, like, I don't...
This guy.
Like, I can't fucking lose this now. I can't lose this now. I can't lose it. Fucking go. Oh, I can't fucking lose it.
Crazy.
This guy sure is gonna have to edit out so much shit.
Bro, I feel bad for Sinner, not gonna lie to you.
Cold.
These niggas were Spurs.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, from what I was here, it was mostly like cordial until like the very end when they started like cutting each other off.
Nah.
I don't even know what Forks is trying to do. I don't even know like why I was trying to like use rhetoric. Like I was using and rhetoric in the conversation. You know, like I don't know what he was doing. Like that was just crazy. You know?
He was trying to be a rhetoric and type shit. Fuck you, man.
Bro was trying to rhetoric me for no reason, bro. I'm like innocent, bro. Like what are you doing?
Man, he must be angry because of that loss right now, bro. Like, bro, he's going ham on me. What the fuck? I'm pissed. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he's low-key just bitching me now. That's crazy.
But I don't know who kicks the recording bot.